Longswords. They're not quite great swords, but they're also not quite a short sword. And they're some of the best weapons in Baldur's Gate 3, so I'll be ranking them all on a tier list here. And the nicest part about them is you can use them in one hand or with two. Now, if you use it single-handed with a shield, it does 1d8 of damage, and if you use it two-handed, it does 1d10. Some of these have incredibly powerful bonuses, which I'll be talking about, and some of the best weapons in the game are longswords. So, the first one we got here is just the regular old rusty sword, battle-worn blade, obviously roleplay tier. However, one thing that's common amongst all these longswords is they have 3 different weapon actions that are pretty good. So, we get Lacerate, which does bleeding damage on the targets, 2 slashing damage at the start of their turn. It also has Rush Attack, which allows you to charge forwards and knock the enemy off balance. That's really nice to have. And then also you get Pommel Strike, which is one of my favorites. It's a bonus action attack, deals non-lethal damage, usually only like 3 or 4 damage, but it possibly dazes the target. Now, if you daze a target, they get disadvantage on wisdom saving throws. So if you use something like Hold Person, you're much more likely to land it. So the Pommel Strike is underrated and makes longswords pretty great. But at the start here, we just have a regular old longsword. I think it looks better than the Battle-Worn Blade. These are obviously just roleplay tiers. You don't want to use unenhanced weapons. And this one here also goes in that roleplay tier. The Githyanki sword, I think, looks the coolest. But getting into a bit of the stronger ones, we got the Bone Saw +1 here, which we get from someone near Malice Thorm in Act 2. So this does 1d8 plus 1 slashing damage and has a magic enhancement +1. And it also gives us the Incise Ligaments weapon action. It's a unique one. So you grind your saw black as teeth into the enemy's calves and possibly slow them. Whenever the enemy is slowed, they have -2 to their armor class, -2 to dexterity, which will further decrease their chance of dodging things like fireball. That's dexterity saving throws. They can't take actions and bonus actions together. They have to choose one or the other. They can take reactions, their movement speed is halved, and they can take more than one attack per turn, and their spells are possibly delayed. So that's pretty solid, actually. Getting that ability early on in the game is pretty nice to be able to take out like an enemy's martial class or a caster. It works great on both of them. I'd have to say it's probably about B tier because slowing a target that early in the game is just super nice. But next we got the Githyanki Longsword +1. So this doesn't have any extra benefit over the Bone Saw, actually. So it's going in the C tier because this just has that extra unique weapon action, whereas this doesn't. So obviously it's better than that as they have the same damage. This does look pretty cool, though. But next we got the Katana. And not everyone knows this, but there is a Katana in the game. It is the same strength as the Githyanki Longsword. I don't want to put it in the C tier because it's super cool. I love katanas in general. They're a really nice weapon style, and it has a unique appearance, which is awesome to get. So you can get this in Act 3. It's going to be outclassed by every weapon in Act 3. It is like a C tier weapon, but I might throw it into the B tier just for style points. This is not really if you want to use a katana, it works perfectly. If you want to do like a samurai build, it's like just a longsword +1, so you can use this with a shield in the offhand. The katana looks super cool though, style points over the Githyanki sword, and it's available in Act 3. So yeah, take from that what you will. Next we got ourselves this is another longsword. This is the Blackard sword. So this is a funky one because it gives us some nice benefits. It does 1d8 plus 2, so a nice enhancement there. And then an additional 1d4 of necrotic damage, so that's awesome. In addition to that, it also has the Dazing Smite feature. So whenever you hit someone with a smite, they must succeed a Constitution saving throw 13 or become dazed. So on a Vengeance Paladin, this is incredibly powerful because you can literally just go in, smite them. If you have the Ring of the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, you can cast Hold Person as a bonus action, and they'll have a disadvantage on that saving throw, so you're more likely to land your Hold Person, making this a really nice sword because it works well on a Paladin. You also get that additional necrotic damage, which is pretty nice to have, so it's pretty good. What can I say? That sword is pretty solid overall. +2 enhancement and extra necrotic damage, plus the ability to daze targets is massive. The Vengeance Paladins also gets the weapon, or they also have an action that uses their Channel Divinity, or not Channel Divinity, uses their Channel Oath, and it can possibly daze the target for only 2 turns, but this lasts forever. So this is actually really good. The Blackard sword. Next we got one of the best swords in this list with the Voss's Silver Sword. So this is interesting. It does a 1d8 plus 2 plus 1d4 of psychic damage if the target is either a Githyanki, Aberration, Fiend, or Elemental. So I guess the attack rolls, you get the psychic damage on anyone, and psychic damage is one of the best damage types because it's the least resisted. And you can also grab the Resonance Stone, which will apply vulnerability to psychic damage. So you can actually pop that off, and that does that 1d4 times 2 damage. This is really good. Voss's Silver Sword, I think, is one of the most underrated swords. It's the only very rare longsword that we have on this list, but the ability to get extra attack rolls against the Githyanki, Aberrations, Fiends, and Elementals, which when you get this in Act 3, you're fighting a lot of Aberrations, which is basically Mind Flayers. You also fight quite a few Fiends and Elementals, so I think that this sword works really well for when you get it. And yeah, you can actually get this in Act 1 too, so that's another option. You could also get it extremely early on, making it a very powerful sword. Not as good as Voss's Silver Sword, the Astral Plane, but still extremely powerful. Next we got there's a few weapons that all look similar, so actually a lot of the longswords share images. So the first one that we got here is the Blade of Oppressed Souls. So this does 1d8 plus 1 and then a 1d4 of psychic damage. So that's actually pretty good. This is a solid martial weapon. Giving that extra psychic damage is nice, and it doesn't require any extra bonuses. And then it also has the Crowning Strike, which unleashes the Wails of the Dead in your blade and possibly instills Crown of Madness on the target. Crown of Madness is nice because that gives the target madness, and they'll just attack the nearest target. So you can do that, shove them, and then they might start attacking their own team. So there's actually some nice synergy with this weapon. I think the Blade of the Oppressed Souls is very solid. It's also probably an S-tier longsword just because the ability to instill madness on a target is massive, and the extra psychic damage works very well. So underrated sword, I would say. I don't see a lot of people talking about the Blade of the Oppressed Souls, but any extra psychic damage is really nice. Next, we got the Adamantine Longsword. So this is made in the Grimforge. You get this really early on. It does 1d8 damage plus 1. In addition, it has Diamond's Bane, so if this weapon attacks a object, it's always a critical hit. So if you need to break open a chest, this is your weapon for it. And it also is what's called the Lethal Weapon, which ignores resistance to slashing damage. Now, one thing with this is you can only get 2 of the Adamantine Forge items. So my personal favorites are the armor as well as the shield. The shield will send targets reeling if they miss attacks. So you can actually really set up a lot of builds with Radiating Orb in that shield, because then it's just going to reduce their attack rolls. Again, the opportunity cost of this weapon is way too high. I would say it's probably B tier. It does have some nice benefits, but the opportunity cost is just way too high because you can get much better items. And there's a lot of different choices you got. So I wouldn't say that this is the best. I'll probably put a B tier, or it could be C tier if you weigh the opportunity cost a little heavier, because you're just better off getting a different weapon than this one. Next, we got the Blade of the Cruel Sting. So this deals 1d8 plus 1 damage, slashing, and it has the Sting of the Helpless. So a drow elf wielding this weapon deals an additional 1d4 poison against restrained targets. And it also has Ensnaring Strands as a level 1 spell that you can cast per short rest. So it does come with that action to stop the target in its place. But the only downside is that poison damage. Poison damage is resisted by a lot of targets, so it's not going to be a lot of damage. But it only works on restrained targets, and only works if you're a drow elf. So the Katana should be in the C tier, but I'm going to put this one in the C tier because those benefits are just too... You need to use Ensnaring Strike first, and then you also have to be a drow, and then you have to attack. So 2 turns to deal 1d4 poison damage, which is the worst damage type in the whole game. There's better weapons. The Katana just looks cooler, so go with the Katana if you want. This is also a rare weapon, and the weapons bonuses are not good. So, yeah. Next, we got the Laurenthian's Wrath. Laurenthian's Wrath. This is a 1d8 plus 1, and it also comes with Razor Gale. So what this does is it's a weapon attack. It hits in a 13-foot cone, and it's similar to Cleave, but it doesn't have a maximum number of targets. So it also will deal half damage on a miss, which is nice, but the ability to hit as many targets as you can within a 4-meter radius is really nice. It does normal weapon damage plus proficiency bonus, so it's not like Cleave where you half your damage. So that's pretty nice. The only thing is the Razor Gale you can only use once per short rest, so that is the only, I guess, downside to it. But a free cleave that deals full damage is actually really nice, and I would probably say this is A tier. Not a weapon that I see a lot of people talking about again, but the ability to hit that many targets in a row is pretty good, to be honest. If you're smart and use Black Hole and group everyone together, get a bunch of damage riders, and then just go and Razor Gale cleave them all, that's good damage. We're getting close to the Phalar Aluve, which I will talk on. I'm going to move these around. Next, we got the Sword of the Emperor. So this is an interesting one. Does 1d8 plus 2 damage. It also has the Shapeshift Slayer, so it deals an additional 1d4 against shapeshifters or polymorph creatures, which is not many, to be honest. It's just not, there's not that many in this game. So nice benefit, but it's not as useful as you'd think. The wielder has a +2 bonus to saving throws against spells. That is the main bonus, the magical durability. It has a +2 weapon enhancement, so it is pretty nice, but I would say it's probably top of the B tier. The Sword of the Emperor, you can get it really easily in this game, but it's just not that great. Especially with some of the other weapons being much, much better than it. So, I guess next we'll go with the Longsword +2. This is 1d8 plus 2. It's nice, probably B tier. +2 weapon enhancement's always great, but it's just a regular longsword. No real extra benefit to bring, so I have to say B tier. Next, we got Duke Ravengard's Longsword. This is an interesting one. It does a 1d8 plus 1, so just a +1 weapon enhancement. But it has the Stirring Execution, so when you kill an enemy, allies within 9 meters gain temporary health points equal to your Charisma modifier. So this works well on a Blade of the Pact of the Blade Warlock, or a Paladin, or a Sorcerer, I guess. Anything that's going to have high charisma. Even a Bard, too. Because that +5 temporary health is kind of nice. Not super huge, but it's something. And then also you get Commander's Strike, which is usually a Battle Master maneuver. What it does is you can use you can direct an ally to use the reaction to make a weapon attack on their next turn. It's really good in tabletop D&D when you can trigger sneak attacks on a rogue, but it's just not amazing overall, I would say. Yeah, it just kind of feels a bit lackluster. However, there is one other benefit. I wouldn't be using the Commander Strike that often, but it does come with a +2 to Charisma up to 24. So I have people commenting that you can get up to 26 Charisma with this. I've only ever been able to get up to 24 with the Mirror of Loss, the Hag's Hair, and Ability Improvement Score, the Birthright Hat. And using this, I would say it's A tier though. Any weapon that adds to your stats is usually quite nice, and it'll give an extra +1 to your temporary health when you take out a target. So it's not the best sword, but it does have some benefits that are good. I just wouldn't use Commander Strike like ever. That kind of sucks, to be honest. And next we got ourselves the let's see here. This is just a weapons +2, I think. Yeah, I think this is just another +2 longsword, but no real extra benefit to this one, unfortunately. So that's the thing. There's a lot of swords that don't really have any extra benefits, just a +2 weapon enhancement, which is nice. I will admit it is nice to have. But oh wait, no, this is the Duke Ravengard sword. Yeah, we'll put that A tier. I might have screwed something up there, but the final sword is the best sword in my opinion. This is a sword that can take you through the entire game, and it's the Phalar Aluve. So what's nice about this is it does 1d8 plus 1 slashing damage, which is good. You can wield it with a shield too. It's my favorite part, is being able to use a shield with this, because it has the Phalar Aluve melody. So you get two options. You also get a +1 to performance, which is nice, but the Phalar Aluve melody, you get two choices. You can use it for 5 turns, and it must be refreshed on short rest. So you can either sing, and when you sing, it'll boost your, it'll give you all targets within 6 meters of you get a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and to saving throws. So it's basically like another Bless, but within a certain region, which is really nice. That's actually a huge boost early on in the game to hit your attacks. But it also has the Shriek, which is my favorite usage of this. So with the Shriek, it gives penalty to the enemy's mental saving throws. So it gives a 1d4 penalty to all saving throws, which is massive. So wisdom saving throws, less likely to succeed if you wanted to do hold person, which is huge. And it also, affected creatures receive an extra 1d4 of thunder damage. So that is really nice. Now, the only downside is if you have the gloves of the Belligerent Skies, which triggers 2 turns of reverberation on the target with thunder damage, it doesn't actually stack with this. However, it does stack whenever you use like the ring that gives the target dazed if they have if you deal thunder damage to them. So some items will give that nice benefit, and that's one of them. So whenever you're shrieking, yeah, the shriek damage, 1d4 penalty to saving throws, additional 1d4 thunder damage. And the beautiful part of that is it can inflict that dazed on the target, which will give them disadvantage on their wisdom saving throws, making it much more likely for you to land your hold person. So with that, the Phalar Aluve is the best longsword in this game. It's really great, and you can get it early on in the game. It works on a variety of builds, and it's a whole lot of fun to use. It kind of buffs up your team as well. So yeah, that's a really great weapon. There it is, ranked all the best longswords in Baldur's Gate 3 on a tier list. If you found this video useful, please hit that subscribe button below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.